Jack Johnson was a big inspiration because of what he did out of the ring. He was so bold. Jack Johnson was a black man back when white people lynched Negroes on weekends, every weekend. Back in 1909, they would send him letters saying, "You fighting a white man, and nigger, if you knock him out, we'll kill you." He said, "Just kill my black buggers, I'm gonna knock this white man cold." And he would knock the white man out, and the Ku Klux Klan would be burning them. They killed Negroes all over the country. When Jack Johnson wanted to fight, they had riots all over South America. It was so serious. And Jack Johnson, he's bad. He had to be a bad, bad black man. Wasn't no black Muslims to defend him. Wasn't no NACP in 1909. Wasn't no Rap Brown. Wasn't no MOVE. All these black groups. Wasn't no Angela Davis, no Huey Newton, no Malcolm X. He was by himself. Jack Johnson. It was so long ago, people still had log cabins in this country, and there were no horses and wagons and stagecoaches to fight. He was one black man in the midst of all them rednecks would kill lynch Negroes every day. He would dress up in pretty suits. Negroes are allowed to dress up in days. He put on pretty white neckties and pretty white, and had white women. You know that nigga was bold. He married white women. You would get lynched for looking at a white woman in them days. That man married white women and walked around, took pictures with his white women, married two of them, and they run him out of the country because of white woman. He left the whole country and fought out of Cuba. He was bad. Back in 1909, man. Man, you know, Jack Johnson was the greatest. He had to be the greatest of all. Wasn't no Black Panthers, wasn't no bodyguards, white people, lynching Negro, wasn't no television, wasn't no telephone. And that Negro was doing all this stuff in them days. He was bad when you think about it. I know I'm bad, but he was crazy.
Jack Johnson loved the limelight and the controversy which surrounded him. He was born in 1878, a black man living in a country ruled by white people. In 1908, Johnson became the first African-American to win the world heavyweight boxing crown. The film of his fight against Canadian Tommy Burns was stopped before Johnson's knockout punch. Many argue it was done to shield viewers from the sight of a black man beating a white man. Johnson generated just as much, if not more, publicity outside the boxing ring. He refused to hide his relationships with white women, which many found outrageous in the US at a time of widespread racial segregation. It would prove to be his undoing. In 1912, Chicago police arrested Johnson for violating the Mann Act. The federal legislation banned the transportation of women across state borders for immoral purposes, a law intended to stop young girls from being lured into prostitution. But federal agents were determined to use it against Johnson in a prosecution many saw as punishment for a high-profile black man having a relationship with a white woman. Belle Schreiber testified against him, a white prostitute who had also been Johnson's girlfriend on and off for 4 years. Johnson pleaded not guilty but was convicted and sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in prison. After his release, Johnson tried to renew his boxing career but never regained his title nor his fearsome reputation. He died in a car crash in 1946 at the age of 68.
We need to erase this act of racism that sent an American citizen to prison on a trumped-up charge.
McCain was behind similar unsuccessful attempts to pass legislation on a pardon for Johnson in 2004 and 2008. McCain's renewed push this year could see Johnson pardoned by Barack Obama, the man who defeated McCain in last year's general election and became the first black president of the United States. Jack Johnson would approve.
Heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder. He's 40-0, this gentleman right here. He's 40-0 with 39 knockouts. And we have Lennox Lewis, who, as you know, is one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time. Unbelievable heart, and in all fairness, unbelievable talent. He was a talented fighter, a great talented fighter. Thank you very much. And Deontay, thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Lennox, if I really went and started working out, could I take Deontay in a fight? This is 40-0, 39 knockouts. Could I take him in a fight if I really went to work?
You have to get past those long arms.
I get it. They're long arms.
They're long arms.
And we also have Linda Bell Haywood, the maternal great-great niece of Jack Johnson. Now, We all sort of have heard of Jack Johnson. Had a very tough life and an interesting life. One of the greatest fighters, Lennox was just telling me, one of the greatest fighters ever. The early 1900s. Today, as president, I've issued an executive grant of clemency, a full pardon, posthumously, to John Arthur Jack Johnson. He was known as Jack Johnson, the first African-American heavyweight champion of the world, a truly great fighter, had a tough life. They say he violated the Mann Act, and he had a conviction that occurred during a period of tremendous racial tension in the United States more than a century ago. Johnson served 10 months in federal prison for what many view as a racially motivated injustice. He was treated very rough, very tough. Born in 1878 in Galveston, Texas, to former slaves, Johnson overcame difficult circumstances to reach the heights of boxing, one of the greatest that ever lived. And both Deontay and Lennox were telling me, they studied those tapes. I don't know, I think you would have been okay. I don't know, I think Lennox would have been okay too. But truly one of the greatest that ever lived. And he overcame these difficult circumstances to reach the heights of boxing and the boxing world, and inspired generations with his tenacity and a very independent spirit. Congress has supported numerous resolutions calling for Johnson's pardon. Went through Congress numerous times. No president ever signed it, surprisingly. They thought it was going to be signed in the last administration, and that didn't happen. So that was very disappointing for a lot of people. These resolutions enjoyed widespread bipartisan support, including from the Congressional Black Caucus. The Black Caucus supported it very, very powerfully, very strongly, but they couldn't get the president to sign it. One of these resolutions passed Congress as recently as 2015.
All right, so there you have the news. The President of the United States issuing a full pardon to Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion that was convicted back in 1913 of transporting a white woman across state lines. Full pardon for Jack Johnson, posthumously done by President Trump.
I'm too hot